let's talk a little bit more about how you broke into the business side of the sport.
Well, I mean, like my focus is always on, in terms of content, has always been just kind of the stuff that I'm like interested in.
So I've talked with a bunch of creators, whether it be with like Tanner or Kyle or Ed, and a lot of these creators are scared to do entertaining stuff.
Looking down the road where like, we're trying to create like a brand and like a fan base and whatnot.
Today, we've got one of the funniest, smartest, and most unfiltered people in pickleball, Zane Navratil. A longtime pro who started on the APP, now a PPA mainstay, Zane has built an impressive career on and off the court. With over 40,000 YouTube subscribers and 35,000 Instagram followers, Zane is here to stay, mixing downright ridiculous videos with some instruction and entertaining stuff. But beyond the laughs and on-court dominance, Zane has remained business savvy in the space. He's leveraged his platform to take equity in brands, play a key role in paddle innovation, and learn more about the company's inner workings. He's not just a sponsored athlete, he's actively taking a role in building pickleball. Today, we're diving into his journey from pro player to paddle innovator to entrepreneur and content creator. I welcome you, Zane Navratil.
This is a big departure from your normal, like, appealing to the boomers and just not saying anything controversial.
I don't appeal to the boomers. I appeal to younger kids. Like half of my demo is under the age of 45.
Under
compared
the
to
age
yours.
Of 45?
Yeah.
All right, congrats.
All right, well, this was a risk bringing you on because of how controversial you are. But I will say there are a few things that you do very, very well. And we're going to break into a lot of them. But first of all, what is up with the hairstyle?
All right, what's up with the haircut? Honestly, it's an attempt to save our marriage. No, so I've never really had long hair. I know you do whatever that is, but my wife Jenny was just like, you know what, we should try this out. I feel like it's at the awkward stage right now where it doesn't really go all the way back, so I've got to like slick it back, andiamo style, and to that awkward phase. But like, it might end up looking good,
Yeah,
and if
looks
not,
good,
we'll just. I mean, it could never look as bad as yours.
All right, well, I like the hair. It seems like you're getting some waves rather than keeping it short. Right.
It's got the people going. People are talking about it.
Yeah. No, you're right. And that's going to be half the comments already of this video. But let's talk about, your start. I don't want to like regurgitate everything that you've done. I want to kind of break into more of the nuance, but let's talk about your start with content. You started what? Did you start making content with Franklin originally?
That's actually a good question. I mean, I probably started like, I started pretty informally when I was just starting out. Like I was doing everything on my own, and I feel like actually there's like a good trend back towards just the authenticity and actually like lower quality sometimes when it comes to the content stuff. Like the stuff that people can tell I'm posting myself always seems to do a little bit like better.
I see the same exact thing. And I think like the first year doing content, it was all like quantity. Like I was posting 3 times a day, all myself. And I think that was like what people ate up. And I see a lot of creators, even like myself at some points, where like I try to hire an editor, and then it loses some of like my personal brand or like my personal like twist to the actual content. And then I kind of have to revert back to me editing the content at points. Or it's just very difficult to scale when you're trying to crank out quantity at the beginning. And then, now I'm shifting more towards quality. But yeah, getting that first editor on board has been very, very tough for me, because then you lose that, you lose your little bit of personality.
Yeah, I mean, like, hopefully the editor is somebody that can, like, capture your personality over time, right? Like, that takes a lot of time working with somebody. But, I think like just throwing out a random post every now and then, like that is just a picture of some random crap that you're doing is actually, I feel like, has been good.
Like
I feel
you
like
asking Jenny to prom.
yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
Random crap.
All right, so you've been doing content for how long?
I guess that would be like 5 years.
5 years. And you've stuck with instructional for the most part, correct?
I guess early on I didn't do a ton of instructional. It was just kind of like updating on pickleball, my endeavors and whatnot. And then I think in 2021 I started doing YouTube, or it might have been late 2021. I started doing instructional content until probably like halfway through last year. I started doing that pros versus 5-0 stuff, which is more on like the entertainment side of things.
Yeah, which we'll talk about that, but would you say your like vlog or update videos at the beginning transitioning over to the instructional stuff was your take on taking your content more seriously? Or were you like nervous about doing content? Did you even see money in it, or did you do it just because you wanted to get eyeballs?
Well, I mean, like my focus is always on, in terms of content, has always been just kind of the stuff that I'm like interested in. So when I first started doing instructionals, I was teaching a lot of in-person clinics. And so I was seeing things that were resonating with people at these clinics, and I was like, all right, I might as well share it with YouTube. Now my interest has sort of shifted a little bit more towards entertaining. A lot of the pros versus 5-0 stuff that we do actually just comes from us like BSing at the lab and like, do you think we could beat X, Y, or Z players doing this? And so I guess it's just been following my own interests, and I think that kind of loops back to authenticity. Like, if I'm interested in the stuff that I'm like producing, I think it'll just naturally be more authentic and more entertaining to the people that are watching. So.
So I've talked with a bunch of creators, whether it be with like Tanner or Kyle or Ed, and a lot of these creators are scared to do entertaining stuff because instructional, they know like they put out a third shot drop video, it's going to get 100,000 views. It's going to be like that's the bread and butter. Entertaining videos, whenever they try it, they invest a lot of time and capital into it, and it always tanks. It always doesn't perform well. And your pros versus 5-0s has been one of the only series that has stuck. I'd say like it keeps growing, and like you found a weird niche. So what made you lean into some entertaining stuff, knowing that it likely isn't going to perform as well as you doing a simple counter video?
Honestly, I didn't care if it didn't perform that well, right? Like, at least when I'm doing my podcast, I'm like, I'm trying to talk to the people and have an interesting conversation for me. And if other people find that interesting, great. When I'm creating content, like, you know, the instructional stuff is definitely a little bit more tailored towards making sure that people are getting value out of that, of course. But pros versus 5-0s and the entertainment stuff is like, I think this is entertaining for me. Like, hopefully other people think so too, right?
Yeah, and a lot of pros even watch it.
I'm surprised by that. When people are like, dude, I watched that last one. I'm like, really?
Yeah.
You're watching this stuff?
Yeah.
Which is cool. So if nobody watches it, like, I still had fun. Like, and so I'm not necessarily worried about how many people are watching it. I do just generally think I've had a good track record of when I've thought something is interesting, a lot of people in pickleball do as well. But if they didn't, I was okay with that too.
So I guess your I'd say approach to YouTube is a little bit different, where it's more gut feeling and authenticity, as you say, rather than analytics.
Probably, yeah. You know, there's certain things that like I'm sure I could do better on the analytics side, but at least the pros versus 5-0s in particular, like I just want to have fun with that. Like, it did feel a little grindy to me to be doing like one instructional video per week. So I was like, I wanted to mix in something that is just like fun too. Like, we genuinely have like a good time when we're playing these, and you're not actually selling one of these challenges for once.
Yeah. I don't know. The last one I remember that you sold was the Nasty Nelson, where you completely missed the person.
I did sell
and
that one.
There's actual money on the line. All right. Well, anyways, you haven't brought me on. I don't know why, because every time I do a pros versus 5-0s with you, it always pops off. Then you do one with like Deco or Julian, and it like tanks. So.
Dude, you're in like 90% of them now at this point. You just couldn't film yesterday because you were in Chicago.
No, I think I should have equity.
In pros versus 5-0s? And what do I get? All right, I want equity in this podcast that nobody watches.
I don't know. I bet we're both losing money on this.
100%.
All right.
But it's long term, right? It's not like I would never have gone into YouTube stuff to like make money right now, right? Like, I do think we're looking down the road where like, you know, we're trying to create like a brand and like a fan base and whatnot, and it takes some time, right? The money's not right now, but long term, I think it makes sense to do this type of stuff, even if we're making some losses right now.
So just touching back to what I said at the beginning, you being way smarter than you look, I think let's talk a little bit more about how you broke into the business side of the sport. Because I want to talk about how pros can also be taken seriously on the business side or in the business side of things. Because I think I've had my fair share. You've probably had your fair share where it's like just let me talk to your agent, or they just won't take you seriously because you're just a pro and that's it. And so how did you break in originally with, would you say XR or ProXR is your first big, I'd say, job outside of playing pro?
Yeah, so at least on the business side, like I'm fortunate that I did serve some time as a CPA. I got my my license and whatnot. So like that's pretty instant credibility on the business side of stuff.
Now do me a favor and shut up for one quick second. This video is brought to you by ProXR Pickleball. Both Zane and I being sponsored athletes, XR has remained one of the most innovative and one of the best paddle brands in the sport. From making downright illegal gritty paddles to actually making poppy nukes, these guys are actually some of the best in the sport. Personally, right now, I play with the Prototype 12.7 standard shape. This is the best paddle on the market. I have it spec'd out like this, and if you guys want to snag one, make sure to use the link down below and cop one for yourself. All right, now you can keep talking.
I just started my own, so I didn't have to report to anybody for a while. There was clinics, it was content, it was all that stuff. For a little while, I was on the board of directors for MLP, which was pretty good, like resume builder as well. And then ProXR, when they were looking to become more serious in the sport, they hired me on as the director of pickleball strategy. So they actually saw some value in the business ideas that I did have, and the knowledge that I had about the industry. Previously, before that, with like Onyx and Franklin, I was basically just a sponsored player. And I didn't think that was like really my highest and best use. Like, yeah, I was a good player and I could represent their brand well, but I thought that I did have good insight into like the back end, the trends, what people are saying in clinics, like all that type of stuff. So they recognized that in me, and I think that's why it's been a great partnership so far. And check this out. They just launched this. This is pretty cool, isn't it?
No,
I don't know what this is like. Low key, their merch hasn't been great previously.
No,
sorry, Joey.
This
respectfully, but
this line is very, very nice quality. I will say that, especially this line too, right here. This
yeah,
is
your
LS,
LS.
No, like the hoodies
I
and
like
stuff.
those too. I don't know. Shorts are mid, but the shirt's good. I like the shirt. I like the shirt a lot.
All right, I'll let that slide. But yeah, I can name right off the top of my head at least 3 paddle companies that are like too stubborn to take input from the pros. And for you to find a relationship with a paddle company that will, and not only take advice, but also bring you on to lead it, it seems pretty, I'd say, unique.
Well, I mean, I think it says a lot about them. It's easy to have like an ego about whatever. You've had success in one area, you think you're like super smart at everything. I think one of the reasons that I've gelled well with them is we're both very good at acknowledging where we aren't an expert, right? Like for me, when I'm filming YouTube videos, I don't want anything to do with the cameras. I don't want anything to do with the stuff that I'm like not an expert at. I'm good at like being on camera, I'm good at playing pickleball, and I know about some of the business stuff of pickleball. They also are like, all right, let's defer to the experts in their areas, which is why it's been I think a really good partnership.
Mm-hmm.
So
I guess this is a pretty broad question, but how did you, or do you have any advice on how to leverage your pro career to break into other avenues in the sport?
Honestly, I feel like people just might not take you seriously until you've built something for yourself, right? Like, yeah, I was a CPA and I worked for Deloitte and I was a good pickleball player, but until I started to build a clinic business and a brand and scale the content and whatnot, I felt like I was just another like player who was going to represent brands, but not really break into the business side. So, I mean, I think if you build your own systems, your own team, and your own brand, those opportunities will come. So I don't think it comes from like outreach. It certainly comes from like, networking and making sure that people know who you are and whatnot, but I was not really going out and selling myself as this person who can help you with the back end of your business. I was just talking to people, getting to know people, and exploring my own interests like the way that I kind of always have, and worked out nicely.
Yeah, and that's another thing is you've done such a good job building out your own team. Like not like only say for example like with clinics, like you have AB running the back end, you just simply go there and do what you're good at because you're not good at anything else. With content, you hire editors, you outsource everything, and then even just with any single avenue, you have you're fully backed with a team, and that's something that I'm trying to work on. Is like, in order to scale, I kind of need a team. I can't do everything on my own. And how difficult was it to build a good team?
I mean, it takes time, and like every day we're figuring out something that we can do better. But like, what are the things that you're best at other than selling pros versus 5-0s? You're really good. No, you're a great pickleball player. You're great on camera. You're a great instructor, and you've got a good business mind too. You understand all this stuff, but you don't want to be in the nitty-gritty details of every little element. You want to be at your highest and best use. So anything that somebody can take off of your plate, the way that I think about it is like, if I spend an hour responding to emails that somebody else could have done, I could have paid somebody else $25 an hour, or theoretically, I could have been teaching a lesson or clinics for $500 an hour. So my highest and best use, I think, my rate is $500 an hour, right? And so if I can hire somebody to take something off of my plate for less than $500 an hour, I think that I'm like in a good spot there. So I try to offload just about anything that I can, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does, and you offload a lot more than other people as well.
Well, also there's a lot more expense. I've got editors. I've got a couple of different people who help me with the admin stuff, clinics. Like, it's a good chunk of money that goes out the door. I'd have to guess I probably spend more than almost any pro pickleball player.
Yeah, no, for sure. Because even like with what you were teaching me with YouTube, you have someone different for thumbnails, you have someone different for finding B-roll, someone different for editing, and then shooting. Like those are, I mean, it's crazy how you find an expert in every single different role. But yeah, something that I've learned recently within the past like year or so compared to the first year that I was doing content was like your brand is like you actually have to protect it. It's like a job. It's a business rather than just something that you have to protect. Like when I was starting out for the first year, it's more so like I'm creating this, I'm just trying to build an image, and now it's like I have this image, how do I get people in order to scale it? Because I can't 5x my brand with just myself. I need to do it with other people.
Was there a question in there somewhere?
No, you were just supposed to give.
Continue the
yeah.
conversation. Good point. No. Yeah, I mean, like, I would just say it does take time. Like, hiring is hard, right? Like,
and it's something I'm really I'm very, very bad.
Yeah, but I mean, like, it's easy to kind of like fall for people who are like salesmen in their jobs, right? Like, there's good salesmen and there's people who are good at executing. I think it's been hard to like let some people go, but I think that's a skill just as much as hiring is. Like,
Yeah.
understanding when it's not working, when to move on, and then like just having the confidence kind of in yourself. It's easy to like feel bad. Like, it was really hard for me to fire somebody the first time. I felt really, really bad, but I was like, look, at the end of the day, I didn't think that they were holding up their side of the agreement, and I felt like things were being held back, and it wasn't fun, but it's been necessary.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I learned that, I guess it's more so like with Longhorn Pickleball. Granted, it's 501c3 rather than an actual like making money business. But it's like I've had to, like when people have tryouts or when people want to make the team or I have to cut people from the team, that's something that I'm really, really bad at and I'm still learning. And then delegating roles was, like I was originally swamped when I started Longhorn Pickleball because I was doing everything like social media, registering for the social nights, getting the social nights sorted, booking flights for the entire team, getting jerseys, and now it's like I've done a much better job delegating roles. and that frees up a lot of time. Thankfully, is that I don't make money from it, and right now I'm supposed to be making a lot of money, but like that definitely helps out a lot. So then I can invest my time elsewhere.
Yeah, but I mean, that's like kind of going back to how you end up with credibility in the industry on the business side, like starting a 501c3 and building up Longhorn Pickleball to what it is, saying that you were the creator of one of the first nonprofit collegiate programs and one of the best, like, especially if Longhorn Pickleball continues to take off, to be able to say that you were the founder of that, like, there's probably going to be, that's super, super valuable, right? Like, you could consult on how to do that for other people, or I don't know. I mean, that just is instant credibility there. So yeah, you didn't make anything of it, but that enhances your brand immensely, I think.
Yeah, and it's taken a lot out of me because I'm like, I always, not making money from it has been like, it messes with me mentally because it's like I could be just shooting content or doing other things or just drilling or stuff like this, but instead I'm doing this, which I'm getting nothing other than, some maybe potential future notoriety.
It is, I mean, like, it is nice, though, too. You could almost consider that, like, nonprofit volunteering, too, right? Like, the stuff that I do with Stop Alzheimer's now, I never make any money from, but, it is, like, fulfilling, I feel like, to have an impact on creating a collegiate team or raising money for Alzheimer's research. Like, I don't know, I think it is good to do some form of volunteer work, too.
So just to go back, you said you're, you being a CPA, correct?
I think I'm like currently an expired licensed CPA. I haven't kept up with my paperwork. I'm still a CPA, but I can't practice without like some continuing education or something.
Got it. So for most pros, the end-all be-all is to do something on the business side, whether it's working for something or working for a brand in pickleball or making their own. That's the end goal. Would you say
Do you think that's true? What
do.
percentage of pros do you think actually want that, though?
I'd say more than 50%.
Really?
Because I said work for somebody else or create their own brand.
Okay. Create their own brand.
Create their own brand is probably the larger percentage of it. But I'd say for sure. Like, I think most pros, as of right now, maybe some of them are short-sighted and are like, okay, I'm just going to be pro for the rest of my life or be pro for the next 5 years. But once they get closer to that finish line, then it's like, I have to do something else.
Right.
And you might as well stay in pickleball than go get another job.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think, again, going back to kind of like highest and best use, like if somebody were to go back and just go to be another tennis coach, they're just another tennis coach, right? But if they've had pro pickleball experience, they're at the top of the pickleball industry. Like, it would not make sense to go out, be an average tennis coach versus be an elite pickleball coach. Mm-hmm.
So would you say your degree and being a CPA helped you break into the business side and being taken more seriously?
Yeah, I mean, I would say so.
So I should stay in school?
Probably, unless you can't do both. I mean, you can always go back to school, but if you can multitask it and it's not going to affect your training, like, yeah, finish. People think we're so busy. You and I make ourselves busy, right? Like, I mean, I probably work 14 hours a day in the different stuff that I do, whether it's training, whether it's off-court stuff, or whether it's the business side of things. But if you're just a regular pro and you're maybe doing 5 hours of training and you have the rest of the day off, like, there is time to do other stuff, whether it's school, whether it's business, whatever. I know you have plenty of stuff that you've gotten yourself into, but if you can finish school, I would say do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, it's been really tough because once again, like, just like we were talking about with our charities or our free stuff, let's say, school doesn't yield any ROI at the moment. It's all in the future. And right now I'd rather just invest my time into stuff that's going to yield any sort of ROI now, which is playing pro, making content, doing stuff in the sport. And so that's it's been like a back and forth in my mind forever now. And I'm trying to do it online. I'm doing school online.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's tough too, because if you're able to make money, you're able to then spend some more money and maybe hire some people, whatever. So it's a tough decision, because more than anything, it's not necessarily like a financial issue. Well, of course, school costs money, but it's more of a time issue, right? Like, I don't know. I spent a lot of time on my schoolwork when I was in school. I definitely nerded out in college. But yeah, it takes time to do well in school, that's for sure.
So speaking of being a nerd, let's talk about your love for just paddle technology. I think with the original Zane Navratil signature and standard ProXR paddles, it seemed like you invested a lot of time knowing how paddles work, whether that's just you being in the industry or learning from ProXR. How has that process been?
That's been it was a lot easier a few years ago, right? When there wasn't constant paddle innovation all the time. Now you have all these different reviewers that are reviewing 5 different paddles a week, every one of them doing something a little bit different. So it was easy enough to keep up to date with all of the the paddles that were doing something new or interesting. Much more difficult now, but then luckily ProXR has a whole bunch of people who are filling that role for us, and I swear we have prototypes coming on a constant basis, so we're always trying out something new, and so it's nice to have sort of offloaded that a little bit mentally now, instead of having to go figure out what X, Y, or Z paddle is doing, and then give instructions to the guys to go try and figure that out or reverse engineer it. They just give us paddles to go try, and they're like, "How does this feel?" I'm like, "Good."
Yeah. Yes, I feel
easier.
like the past month I haven't seen you actually play with your paddle. It's all just random black paddles.
Yeah, pretty much. This is the time of year. Yeah, well, this is the time of year.
Really? So are you saying it's seasonal, or no?
It is. Most of the paddle companies come out with something in March or April. A lot of times it's right after Chinese New Year. These companies will mass produce all their stuff, and then it hits the markets in March or April. So this is definitely the biggest time of year. Sometimes there's some fall launches, but I'd say a good 2/3 of paddle launches seem to come at this time.
So right now, with the way you test, with the way you test current paddles, is it more so off of feel, or is it more so off of specs? Like if you notice this paddle has a higher swing weight than this paddle, but this paddle feels better, would you still move forward with this? Or
I would say
how nerdy are you compared to that gut feeling that you referenced?
Well, I mean, I would say I'm nerdy in the fact of I want to make sure that there's only one variable at play at any given time, right? So if we're messing around with the shape, I want every part of the paddle to be different, the same core, I want every part of the paddle to be the same core, the same cell size, the same surface face, but maybe the shape is slightly different, and I'll compare it. Once I've gotten all of the specs basically the same, then it'll be a feel thing, right? Or if we're comparing cell size, honeycomb size within a paddle, I want every other part of that paddle to be the exact same, so that way I can compare the feel of one to another. It's impossible to test paddles with more than one variable being changed.
Got it. Makes sense. Yeah, and I've seen feel, at least, for example, when Alshon was making his paddle with Paddle Tech, even though that shape isn't aerodynamically the best shape.
No, yeah, spit it. You're good. Keep going.
Even though Alshon's paddle shape wasn't the best aerodynamically, he still liked the feel of it better. So he moved forward with it rather than going with that more hybrid shape.
Yeah, that one in particular, Christian's paddle, it looks clunky. It's a weird sort of shape, but they really kind of made the sweet spot pretty big with it, even because of that weird looking shape. Mm-hmm. But it's a good paddle.
Yeah. Do you think square paddles are the future?
I kind of do, yeah.
Really, like 6-inch handles with just a fat Yola Solaire type shape?
I don't know about the rounded, more circular paddles. I feel like those kind of shrink the sweet spot a little bit, but they are a little bit more aerodynamic. I would say long handle, small but dense face, I think will be interesting. I don't actually think we need to maximize the specifications, right? So you're allowed to have a max length plus width of 24 inches. So if your paddle is 8 inches wide, it can only be 6 inches long, 16 inches long, right? I think we'll start to see paddle companies not maximize the surface dimensions of those paddles and just make them more aerodynamic, cut through the air quicker, and denser.
Really?
I could be wrong.
No. I mean, you typically, I don't know, you have some hot takes. So. Okay, so you're saying
Sorry.
instead of it being 16 inches, maybe make it 15 or 14 inches long, so it swings faster, because that's what you should maximize for rather than reach.
Yeah, because like, remember when we played with those training paddles? They're tiny, right? But like, when you hit the paddle, the sweet spot was pretty good, even though the paddle face was tiny, right? So the head of that paddle, like all of the weight is right there. So anywhere you hit it, it felt like a sweet spot, right? And those things cut through the air super, super quickly. So like, I could see a world where the paddle faces get really small, but like very thick, very heavy in the head. And I don't know, like I think the trade-off could be there. Nobody's done it yet, but I think it could be interesting.
So do you think like head-heavy paddles will be more common in the future?
I think people haven't explored the trade-off between, people right now are like, okay, this is head-heavy or head-light, or it's aerodynamic versus not aerodynamic. I don't think people have really weighed those together, right? If you have a head-heavy paddle, but it's super aerodynamic, it's easier to cut through the air. And so like, I don't know if people have really considered how those variables work together.
Got it. Okay. And so is this something that you're actively experimenting with?
No, not really. This is theoretical. This is all just theory. We're just two buddies on a couch right now. You got toe thumbs.
All right. So not only with ProXR, but you also just recently got signed with Squares, the shoe brand, also by XR, correct?
Yeah. Yep.
As well as, were you involved in the Move brand?
Not as much. With Squares, we worked on those shoes from start to finish. They basically came to me with a golf shoe that they're like, this is the general idea. I put it on and it felt really good because it feels like your foot suctions into it and there's plenty of space around the toe, which is their whole deal with the Square toe box. And then we just figured out a way to use that technology and then make the rest of the shoe specifically for pickleball. I wish I was wearing them right now, but I generally just wear them on the court for the most part.
So just take, for example, shoes, which are much different than paddles. You're not an expert on shoes whatsoever. So how did you get so involved in making that shoe from scratch?
So you want to know a fun story, actually? Apparently when you make prototype shoes, they're like, the most standard size is size 9. And so around 35 Capital, they were like, who's got a size 9 shoe that can try this out? I was like, I'm size 9. So that's like, obviously I know enough about shoes, and I don't know the specifications. I obviously don't know nearly as much as I would know about paddles, but I know movement patterns, and then these guys are experts, and they've tailored their shoe to different sports, whether it's golf, whether it's baseball, or whether it's now pickleball. So I could tell them based on feel alone stuff that I need for pickleball, and then they could go do the actual technical stuff. So it happened to be kind of funny that I was like just happened to be a size 9. I can communicate what needs to be, how the shoes need to perform at a pro level, and so that's how the partnership.
That's how you landed a full-blown partnership. Jeez, I need tiny feet too, bro.
Grow up.
Bro, look at these bad boys.
Ons? Don't play footsie with me. What is this? What size shoe do you wear?
11 and a half.
You're like, aren't you like 6'3"?
Jack, yeah, that's what my
You're
nickname
6'3"? How tall are you?
I'm 6'1", bro.
Everybody who's over 6 foot looks 6'5" to me, to be honest.
Yeah. And you try to take my hairstyle too.
I would never try and take that hairstyle. Trust me.
All right, so how important is you getting more involved in the business side moving forward? Because like right now you've remained on top of the pro scene for a while now, but now you're starting to like
I'm falling off. I had this conversation with somebody, like, pretty much everybody's falling off in a way that, like, nobody is as dominant as they were before, right? Ben's not as dominant. Annalee is as dominant. Anomaly.
She's a
But,
goat.
like, you're going to see this become more like tennis and less like the way that pickleball was, right? Where a couple years ago when you went to a tournament, you could pretty much predict who the medalists were going to be early on. Like,
Yeah, Matt
players were
Riley
just,
and
yeah,
Ben
players,
Cole,
the top players were just so much better than the field. In tennis, that's just not the case, right? There's so many good players that it really is kind of anybody's game on a week in, week out basis. As the sport gets more mature, the difference between the number 1 player and the number 64 player is going to be so much smaller. We ran through this on the podcast before, but if you think about like Ben's dominance in singles, in any given match, he's probably got a 90% chance of winning, right? Well, it used to be in rounds 1, 2, and 3, he had a 0% chance of winning. In rounds 4, 5, and 6, he had a 90% chance. So his chance of winning the tournament was 0.9 times 0.9 times 0.9, which becomes, what is that, like 72%? But if you only have a 90% chance of winning all 6 rounds, 0.9 to the 6th power is, I don't know, it's much less, right? So when you have a small chance of actually losing in those first few rounds because the field has become more level, you're just never going to see that same amount of dominance again. So anyway, back to your point, I think everybody is getting slightly less dominant because the field is getting stronger. And so, yeah, I mean, like, thinking about what is next is something that's actually been on my mind since I quit my job as an auditor. I always wanted to have the ability to make this my career. And my assumptions when I quit my job was that I would never win a penny playing. It was a great way of like taking pressure off of
That's
myself.
true. Yeah.
But everything that I earn from playing, I see as a bonus.
Gravy, yeah.
So the other stuff is where I think the real long term is there.
Well said. No, okay. So that's also something that I touched on was I think this year is going to be the year of like talent parity, where every first round matchup is going to be semi-difficult. And there's going to be a lot more game 3s. You're going to fall off the map even more. And I think that, I mean, there's going to be, instead of 1 through 10 always making it to the quarterfinals, there's going to be a 21 seed in there. There's going to be a 24 seed in there. And that is definitely something. I like your idea, or I like your concept of viewing prize money as gravy rather than like a source of income. I think that's something that I never really struggled with, but it was like, in order to afford this lifestyle, I need to make this money off the court and then this money on the court.
Yeah, dude, that's so much pressure, right? I think that takes the fun out of your actual tournaments.
It does, and I've talked to this for about a few people. It's like very tough to have a true like Mamba mentality where it's like eat what you kill. Like if I don't win this, my family's going to starve, and performing better on the court. Typically for the common person, that causes more pressure, more errors, and more losses. So viewing it as like I'm already doing great. Now let me just step on the court and try to play my best. There's less pressure, and I think for the common person, they're going to play a lot better with that perspective.
Which pros do you think have Mamba mentality out there?
It was Julian.
Julian seems to have Mamba mentality when he feels like it.
When he feels like it.
And I don't mean that like disrespectfully, right? There are so many tournaments, like, and I think I would actually put myself in that category too, right? So like, it's hard to be that way every single time, right? Mamba mentality, like he was that way every single game. It didn't matter whether it was a preseason game or what, right? But like Julian, when he's focused on it, like yeah, he's a dog out there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like Matt Wright too, I think.
Yeah.
I think Andre Deescu.
Sneaky,
like,
yeah. Yeah, so
Yeah.
him and Alshon, because Alshon, I think Alshon has it too. It's more, I think more for Alshon, maybe it's more not losing than it is anything else. But yeah,
Yeah.
I agree with, and Andre's consistent too.
Yeah. I think Willie's got some of that.
Will does. Yeah.
Will doesn't have like the same like Mamba preparation. Like I'm gonna get to the gym 19 hours before this game. Like he's a little bit more like stroll in a few minutes, take a quick little warm up, and then really lock in for the match.
Yeah, but he walks in with his chest out, knowing he's the best one on the court. Doesn't matter who's on the court, and I mean that can yield positive and negative results. Like I think for most people, honestly, what do you think? Do you think it's better? Would you tell amateurs, if you were like raising an academy, would you say like always believe that you're the best one on the court, or like how would your perspective be?
That's interesting because like you want to be confident, but you don't want to be arrogant, right?
Naive,
Or
yeah.
confident to the point of foolishness, right? Like if you truly believe that you're like absolutely the best, you might try dumb shots because you think you're going to get away with it, right? Like you've got to be confident, but still understand like if I don't play my best, they're going to win, right? So I think a good way to think about it is if I get the best out of myself today, nobody can beat me. If I don't get the best out of myself, I can lose to anybody, right? Maybe that's a better mentality.
How I see it is more so as like if I have a higher floor than someone else, and like my deviation of play is a lot less,
Yeah.
then I can perform at a higher level over a longer period of matches.
It's more sustainable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so rather than, someone like that who are, maybe they think they can get away with more shots or something, but then their deviation of play is like substantially larger, then I'd say it's better or worse. If you're I've said this for a while, if you are a rising up and comer that doesn't have a name, it's better to have more deviation because
100%.
your opportunity for upsets is larger. And then that's how you break into the game. And then as soon as you break into the pro level, then you can start working on more consistency. But at the beginning, it's just like grip it and rip it. Like if you lose 11-0, 11-1, like you were supposed to. So you have more upside just going balls to the wall than you do downside.
Agreed, right? I think that's part of the reason why you see teams that are underdogs just almost always play more aggressive than the teams that are supposed to win, right? When you're supposed to win, you can play your pretty conservative shots, not trying to do anything special. If you're the underdog, all right, I'm probably not going to beat them if I'm just playing my average game. I know I need to play very well, possibly play very badly as a result of that, but like I've got to do something slightly out of the comfort zone.
And so now wrapping it all up, what do you see Zane Navratil doing in the future? Next 5 years, more content, more business, more pro stuff, coaching, what's in it?
Yeah, dude, that's such a hard question. Chris Williamson taught me this. When you are working a corporate job, you have a very linear trajectory, right? Like every couple of years you get a promotion, you climb the corporate ladder linearly. When you are an entrepreneur in a high growth industry, you climb in an exponential way. So rather than going up at a certain slope, you have a like exponential hockey stick, which makes it very, very difficult to actually know where you're going to be in a couple of years. So my strategy is really to build the brand, build a really good team around me that can make YouTube videos efficiently, that can help me with admin really efficiently, that can help me with clinics very efficiently, and have a great team that's sitting in a good spot and waiting for the opportunity to come. Like, something about the best players in soccer, as an example, is sometimes they don't even look like the flashiest, but they're well prepared and they're in the right place at the right time. I want to be well prepared, in the right place at the right time, if somebody passes me the ball, right? Like, so I don't know what that's going to be, but build a team and be ready, basically. There are different options, right? Like there's GMing a team, coaching players, academy, commentary, international stuff, commissioner type of role. There's a million different things that I feel like I could be good at.
So you don't have one that you favorite more than the other.
I'm kind of liking all the different things that I'm doing. I like doing the commentary. I really like tweaking and screwing around with rules and trying to break other people's rules. So I like team building. I like, obviously being involved with MLP stuff and being a player coach for the teams that I've been on. I like all that stuff. I think I've built a good reputation in all those different areas. Just don't know what the right opportunity is going to be. I think I'll get more of those too, or those conversations become more serious when I'm not playing anymore as well. So, but at some point, right? Like Jenny and I want to have kids and not be traveling to a tournament 26 weekends out of the year. So.
Yeah. No, I don't blame you there. That seems like the hard part, is the players that do this while also supporting a family. Big respect. I mean, that's crazy, especially if you're doing it on the supposition that some of your income's going to be with prize money,
Yeah, for sure. That's a lot of pressure.
Yeah,
That's definitely a lot of pressure.
Mm-hmm.
I can't imagine going out there and, having kids or having to bring kids with you or having to pay for babysitters back home. Like, props to the people who are able to do this with kids.
Mm-hmm.
That is, so tough.
For sure. Well, it seems like you're pretty open-minded, so thanks for hopping on the best pickleball podcast known to man.
Number one.
I appreciate it. Let me know when you want me back on the dink for some views. And, thank you.
Yeah,
Do you have anything that you need to plug?
Do I have anything I want to plug? No, I would say, you did a really surprisingly good job. So,
well, thank you.
Yeah,
No,
I actually have
appreciate
a compliment for you.
No, thank you. That's the first ever compliment you've ever given
That's
me.
not the first
No, clip
ever.
it, clip that, please.
That's not the first ever. Come on.
No, it
grow up.
is. It is.
No, it's not.
No, swear to God. Swear to God. And we got on video too.
No, dude, you did a good job. I think this will be a good podcast. Let me ask you one quick question. What's the overall plan with the pod?
Simply more of a conversation and dialogue than an actual podcast. I want to do this.
Better.
I want to do this while traveling. I want to do this, just with a cool background and more so just a dialogue between me and you rather than me asking you questions every 2 seconds. And I think one of the best traits I have is not instead of firing people, instead it's asking questions, like curiosity. So I think that really yields well when I'm doing a podcast.
Nice, dude. Yeah, I think the interview style podcasts are going to be kind of a thing of the past. So the conversation's more free flowing. I like that too.
Yeah. So tell your mom I say hi.
Don't touch me with your toe thumbs.